Hey guys, it's Dylan, and sorry, it's been a while since I uploaded a video onto my channel. I've been at college for the past 7 weeks, and now I have another 7 weeks at home doing online learning, so I don't know how we're going to learn collision repair online, but we'll see. And also, last night, I was driving about 70 down the highway, then my rear diff blew. That wasn't fun. There's the carnage. The spider gears and the shafts and everything are just destroyed. Like, that's kind of impressive. And this spider gear got broken in half. And here is a drive shaft bolt, or a U-joint bolt, that I've been looking for my front drive shaft for like a long time. I just don't have my front drive shaft in right now because I've lost the bolts, and the bolts at the hardware store don't work. Anyway, this is a Plymouth video, not a Jeep video, so I was debating on filming that, but I was just kind of stressed out and wanted to get it done as soon as possible. Only took an hour and a half to get the axle out, so that's good. But my carburetor is rebuilt. It's converted to blow through, so yeah, that's good. Set that back there. And yesterday I got a 2-barrel intake. It's a stock 2-barrel intake. This is a stock single barrel. That had an adapter for a small 2-barrel that is supposed to fit onto this. But now I need to have an adapter to go from this onto this, since it's a lot bigger. I also ordered a new exhaust manifold and a couple other things to get this car back on the road. You can see this exhaust manifold, it's pretty rusty and everything, and all of the bolts that hold or that connect the intake to the exhaust and kind of clamp them together, they all broke off when I removed them. Actually, I only had to remove these two because this one was already broken off. And I don't feel like extracting bolts and doing all that stuff, so figure for like, I think it's like $140, I just get a whole new manifold. Instead of dealing with all these broken bolts and extracting them, and that would not be fun. But yeah, about 2 weeks ago I started to remove the intake manifold, but I just never got around to finishing it because it got really cold and I had to go back to school. Since I can only be home on the weekends. And it's about a 50-minute drive for me, so I don't want to go home like every night just to work on this. So I'm going to try to remove the rest of this intake and exhaust manifold so that when all my new parts come in, I can get it thrown in right away. And I'm hoping to get this running and driving and roadworthy by the end of 2020. So I've got a little bit of time to go. And I also need to make new transmission lines because they're crammed between the exhaust and the engine mount, and that's not good. That'll definitely overheat the transmission and blow that up, and the line is already pinched right there and leaking fluid, so I'm just gonna get a whole bunch of straight line and then bend it all into a shape that'll work. This is so much easier to replace the intake and exhaust manifold compared to my Jeep, where you can't see all the bolts underneath and you just have to kind of like feel up under there and try to feel for all the studs and bolts, and then you'll miss one and it won't come off, and yeah, I've changed too many of them. But to get the exhaust off, I needed to take off this little pipe here that connects to the turbo, so I could kind of lift it up out of there. But yeah, it was really easy to take off. It's just a couple nuts, 2 studs, and pops right off. But these studs go into the coolant jackets and everything, so I may have spilled a little bit of coolant. I ended up getting a bucket under there in time. But yeah, let's look at the old one. So I guess it was worth it just for me to get a new exhaust manifold, because look at this right here. That's a pretty decent sized crack that I couldn't really see. It was pretty much covered by the intake sitting like this, so this thing is really heavy. I'm gonna be sanding this down and painting it with some high temp paint. I don't know if I want to go with blue or not. This blue matches the valve cover, so if I go with a different color, I'll take off the valve cover too and sand that down to paint a different color. I don't know what color would look good with a like a gold brownish car. I don't remember if I talked about this or not, but this is the original headliner, I believe, and it's in really nice shape. Since they use like metal bars that run across and hold it up instead of just adhesive like the new cars and like my Jeep. But yeah, it's in really nice shape. Like, it's not torn at all besides right here on each side. But besides that, it's in really good shape. A little bit up there, but no big deal. This isn't a show car or anything. Here's my new 2-barrel carb and my old 2-barrel carb. This one's a bit bigger. Might run a tiny bit better. But this is the carb that came on new cars from the factory if they came with a 2-barrel intake. So that would have just been sitting up like that. But you can see that's way bigger on the new carb, so I needed an adapter, and this has already been sanded down by the previous owner to fit. Oh yeah, and the choke wire was like here before, or not the wire, but like the whole setup right here. But since I have a turbo and everything, I'm not going to use a choke, so I took that off. It wasn't even connected in the first place, it was just sitting out here. And I also took off the tack down here because it would always tear up my shin. It was set up like right here, and then anytime I move my foot, this metal ridge here would just like tear up my shin. So I'm going to be moving it to right here so I can see it when I'm driving. It's not in my way. It's not blocking any gauges, and I don't know why they didn't just put it here in the first place. I'm gonna get a big hose clamp and put the hose clamp around it so I don't drill into the steering column. And also, I saw this one person in a Facebook group that I'm in. He had a dash that looked really similar to mine, like all torn up and nasty looking, flaking, everything's peeling off of it. And he got some carbon fiber vinyl wrap and then wrap the thing in carbon fiber, and it looks really good. And I just remembered that I had some carbon fiber wrap in my room, so I might figure out how to take this dash out and bring it up to my room and wrap it in carbon fiber. That'll make it look a million times better than this fake wood stuff that's peeling off. And I also have a radio from my old Jeep with Bluetooth and everything, so probably gonna take this out, put the Bluetooth one in, and get some louder speakers so I can actually hear it over the fender dump exhaust. It's the next day and I just got back from the junkyard. I got a new axle, and there's a 5.2 VJ at the junkyard, and it had this sitting in the engine bay. Not attached to anything, so I picked this up. I figured the inside looked almost identical to the size of this that I need, but the only ones I could find online were like, I don't know, 100 to 200 bucks. I didn't want to spend that, so I got this for $5 at the junkyard. There's like a little ridge around here that I needed to cut off, and now it fits on good, but I think I'm gonna have to take off the metal area here, before spokes going around, since it hits where the choke usually sits. And I also got some JB plastic welder. There's a bit of like a gap around here, so I think I'm gonna fill that in with JB weld. I'm probably gonna get a sheet of sandpaper and sand this down smooth, since it's not really smooth right now. The only thing, oh, there was also like a big flap in here that I had to cut off. But yeah, the only thing that I could really get in there to get it cut off pretty evenly was a screwdriver and some MAP gas. I heated up the screwdriver, kind of just went around there a couple times and got everything better. And I'm not sure what I'm going to do about this. I'm thinking of maybe cutting it off and then using JB weld and then putting a boost gauge thing right here. I feel like that would be the best area to put the boost gauge so I don't mess up any of the tubing that's already set up in the front. I'm not certain if that will work at this spot or anything, but I'll try it and see if it works. And the last thing that I need to do to this carb, or the last main thing that I need to do, is fill this hole right here up with JB weld. So I got some regular JB weld here, and then this is where the choke arm usually comes up, and then attaches to the choke here and opens and closes it, but I don't have a choke anymore, so yeah, just gonna fill in that hole. It's not gonna look the prettiest, but it'll be covered up. So I got my Jeep up and running again. I ended up stripping out the bolts for the wheel cylinder. I forget if I said that in the last video, but that was a big pain to grind out. I had to get, I could not find my Dremel anywhere, but I eventually found it, and then I had to grind off the bolts, and it was just, it took way longer than it should have. But the rest of the parts for the Plymouth just came in, or it came in earlier today. I got an exhaust manifold and some stuff for the fuel line to connect to the carb. So I got this piece on the end here, which threads into the carb itself, and then this end, which you put the fuel line onto, the rubber fuel line. I didn't read the descriptions good enough, or maybe I put the wrong thing in my cart on Amazon or something, but they didn't thread into each other, so I just went to the hardware store, got an adapter here, and all the other bolts that I need to put new hardware on the intake and exhaust manifold. So it was only like $10 for all of this stuff, which wasn't that bad, and the soda. So it's getting kind of late, but I think I might have time to start putting the stuff on. Here's the new exhaust manifold. With the way that the turbo piping is here, I can't fit the bolt straight up this way to thread into the exhaust manifold the way it's supposed to be. So I need to drill out the hole or the threads on the manifold and put the bolt through the other way so that I can put a nut on this side. It's drilling out a lot easier than I thought it would with just a really cheap drill and a Harbor Freight bit. But you can see these bolts slide in now. So I'll throw some washers on the nut and the bolt and then put them in. And that should be all the hardware that I need for pretty much a whole intake and exhaust setup. So for a blow-through carb, you want to have a vent extension. And I just got some 1/4-inch fuel line, and that fit nicely over the vent tube. But it was really floppy, and I didn't want it to get all messed up, like in the intake with all the wind blowing around and everything. So I got a old screwdriver handle and clamped that on loosely. It's tight enough that it won't fall off, but not so tight that it's like squishing down the hose. And I clamped this down too hard here, so I gotta cut that down and redo that. Also, I have the exhaust and intake almost on. Oops. It's got about half of the bolts in, but it's almost ready to start up again. You know, I think this intake turned out really well. So it's a Jeep ZJ, I guess carb hat you would call it, but it was on a throttle body. It's a throttle body hat, I don't know. But it's the right side for the carb after I sanded this down and took out the metal support on the inside. I had a bit of a gap around here, so I put a ton of plastic JB Weld on. I got an adapter from AutoZone, and yeah, it's ready to be bolted up and hopefully make some boost. And I also got the boost gauge thing here and put that in. I got an old screw and heated it up with a torch, stuck it through 4 times here so it would give a better area for the plastic JB Weld to bond to. And I also got the hot screw and kind of went around the inside of this hole and made sure everything was all rough. And then I filled it with JB Weld, the plastic JB Weld, threaded this in, and that's not going to be coming out anytime soon. And it's a really clean look too, besides the hole there, but I could probably fill that up with some more JB Weld and it would look pretty nice. There's some JB Weld dripping here, but I'm pretty sure I can peel that off and chip it away, or just leave it if it's not too noticeable. I don't know yet. Yup, she runs. I got the carb and everything on. Apparently I didn't have the float set right, so a whole bunch of fuel started to come out of the vent tube of the carb and right down into the intercooler. So I had a ton of gas in the intercooler, so I have a shop vac hose hooked up to the intake and over to a bucket so that it will blow out all the gas into the bucket, so I don't have to take the entire front end of the car out, just to take out the intercooler and drain it. But yeah, it runs nice, but the carb still needs tuned. It's running really rich. When I have the intake hooked up and the turbo hooked up, it'll be better, so I'm not going to tune it till I get that all hooked up. But yeah, it started up like the second I touched the key.